the enchantment of the river. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an amber glow upon the river, Lila felt an inexplicable pull towards the water's edge. It beckoned her like a siren's call, whispering secrets through the gentle rustle of leaves and the soft lap of waves against the stones. The villagers often spoke of the river as a living entity connected to the very soul of their land, and Lila, with her endless curiosity, was tantalized by what lay beneath its shimmering surface. Kneeling on the bank, she dipped her fingers into the cool water, shivers of anticipation coursing through her. In that moment, the river felt alive. It danced around her hands, glimmering in the waning light, as if acknowledging her presence. She recalled the stories her grandmother told her, of dreams fulfilled and desires unbound. But they also echoed the warnings, the sacrifices, the confusion of what price one might pay to gain what they wished for. Lila, however, felt a courage stirring within her, a desire to break free from the mundane patterns of village life and explore what lay beyond the familiar hills. As twilight deepened, the air grew thick with an ethereal energy. Lila's heart raced as she noticed ripples moving inconsistently across the water. From those depths, a figure emerged, radiating an otherworldly glow. The river spirit, adorned in flowing robes of mist and water lilies, danced gracefully to the surface. Lila gasped, captivated not only by the spirit's beauty but also by the commanding presence it exuded. "Why do you summon me, child of the land?" The spirit's voice flowed like honey, soothing yet powerful, wrapping around Lila's heart like an embrace. "What is it that you truly wish for?" Caught in the moment, Lila hesitated, the weight of her desires flooding her mind. She had long yearned for adventure beyond the hills that confined her, dreams of traveling to distant lands and uncovering the mysteries of life. I wish to see the world beyond this valley," she finally confessed, her voice trembling yet resolute. The spirit's eyes sparkled with an ancient knowledge, depths of time swirling like the river currents themselves. "Wishes hold power, dear one, but they come entwined with the essence of who you are. To see the world is a noble desire, yet it requires a sacrifice." Lila's heart sank. She had heard of the toll the river spirit demanded, but clung to the possibility of her dreams. "Sacrifice?" she echoed, conscious of the weight the word carried. "What must I give?" "A piece of your essence, a memory to enchant the waters in your stead," the spirit replied, each word imbued with the soft lapping of waves. The more vivid the memory, the stronger the magic. Torn, Lila's thoughts raced to moments cherished, the laughter of childhood friends, warm evenings spent with her grandmother watching the stars. What would she be without those memories? Yet the longing to break free tightened around her heart like a vine. The luminescent being sensed her inner turmoil and continued, "Remember, dear child, such sacrifices shape your path. You may wonder who you'll become when what you cherish most is lost." Lila drew a deep breath, considering the spirit's words. She desired exploration, but feared losing herself in the process. The balance between her dreams and the cost weighed heavily upon her, yet the glow of the spirit illuminated the path ahead, a path she felt drawn to despite the uncertainty. As water swirled chaotically around her feet, she made her choice, a decision that would intertwine her fate with the river's ancient spirit, changing both their destinies forever. A bargain with the unknown. Lila stood at the water's edge, her heart pounding in rhythm with the river's restless flow. The sunlight sparkled off the surface, creating a tapestry of shimmering diamonds that beckoned her forward. She was no longer the girl who merely watched life from a distance. She was the dreamer, filled with passion and longing. The voice that had whispered from the depths felt like an echo of her deepest desires, resonating with the very essence of her soul. With every step towards the water, she felt a magnetic pull, as if the river had become an extension of her own heartbeat. As she knelt beside the water, its coolness kissed her fingers, sending a shiver up her spine. She gazed into the depths and saw not just her reflection but fleeting images of the life she desired, a life filled with adventure, with love that set her heart ablaze. The promise of joy wrapped around her like a warm embrace, but beneath it lingered a shadow of uncertainty. What was the most precious gift? What price would she ultimately pay? Yet in this moment, the desire to break free from her mundane existence clouded her judgment. All she could think about was the intoxicating promise the river spirit had made. The water began to swirl in mesmerizing patterns, and the voice spoke again, this time clearer, drawing her further into its depths. To find what you seek, you must first offer what is most dear to you, it intoned, as if revealing a hidden truth. Lila hesitated, heart racing, as a flicker of doubt momentarily broke through her enchantment. What could she possibly sacrifice? Yet the thought of continuing on her current path felt like an unbearable fate. Her dreams, so vibrant and so close, lay beyond that liquid barrier. It's then that she thought of the small, hollow locket at her neck, a keepsake from her mother, a relic of love that had endured loss. This locket held within it a shared history, a connection to a past she didn't want to forsake, yet its weight was a reminder of the life she could never attain if she remained shackled to her fears. The struggle within her began to swell, a tempest of conflict and yearning. Could I really part with this, for love, for a life so full of brightness? With a deep breath, she unclasped the locket and held it over the water, the sun illuminating the delicate contours of the metal. In that moment, time stretched, a heartbeat, a sigh, a hope intermingled with apprehension. The river's voice enveloped her, soothing yet insistent. By releasing this burden, you shall awaken your desires in their truest form. Before she could second-guess herself, she let it slip from her fingers, watching as the locket sank into the depths. The river absorbed it eagerly, enveloping it in its cool embrace. A rush of energy enveloped her, a whirlwind of emotions that extinguished all doubt. In an instant, the swirling waters intensified, spiraling higher, forming a vortex that transcended reality. Lila felt herself being pulled closer, her body weightless as she was drawn into the heart of the river, the spirit's domain. Suddenly, she was surrounded by a kaleidoscope of visions. Fleeting glimpses of love, faces she did not know yet felt intimately connected to, moments of laughter and happiness. The essence of what she had sacrificed hovered in the air, shimmering like the stars. The river had taken her offering willingly, yet in the back of her mind, a fatal question lingered. What had she truly given up? And at what cost would her dreams come to fruition? As the water swirled and danced around her, she could only surrender to the current, bound now not only to the spirit of the river, but also to the unfurling tapestry of her fate, woven with love but imbued with an uncertainty she had yet to grasp fully. Lila, awash in both exhilaration and dread, realized she had irrevocably changed, crossing a threshold from which there would be no return. The arrival of the unforeseen. Each afternoon seemed to bring with it a new hue to the sky, painting the world in shades of gold and lavender, and Lila's heart danced in harmony with the changing light. Yet enveloped in this vivid whirl of emotions, there lay a subtle anxiety threading through her days. As she waded deeper into her feelings for Cale, she found herself entranced not only by his charm, but also by something far more mysterious, a pull that tethered them to forces beyond her understanding. Their meetings at the river became less of a choice and more of an inevitability, a magnetic draw that guided her feet through the village and past the swaying trees lining the riverbank. Each visit was steeped in ritual, a solemn invocation of the spirit that resided within the waters. She would sit by the river's edge, the soft murmur of the current a soothing balm against her worries, and close her eyes to immerse herself in the inviting, thrumming energy that pulsed under the surface. It was here, in these quiet moments, that she sought clarity, praying for signs that would illuminate their path together. Cale would often join her, his presence as palpable as the mist rising from the water at dawn. As dusk painted them in twilight shadows, he would tell her tales of distant lands and fantastical creatures, his voice wrapping around her like a warm shawl. Yet, as she leaned into the joy of his words, Lila couldn't shake the feeling of something just beyond her grasp, the peculiar energy that hovered around him, flickering at the edge of her perception like uncatchable fireflies. Each laughter that rolled from his lips felt laden with secrets, each smile a puzzle she yearned to decode. On a particularly starry night, as they sat on the bank, a breeze swept through the trees, rustling the leaves like a whispered prophecy. Cale turned to her then, his eyes reflecting the shimmering constellations above, and Lila felt a jolt of recognition. It was as if the universe had conspired to bring them together, yet woven within that was a fragile thread of unease. "Do you believe in fate?" he asked, a teasing smile playing on his lips. She laughed, trying to shake the weight of her thoughts, but underneath that laughter was a question unanswered. "I want to," she replied, her voice steady despite the inner turmoil. "But it feels like fate is more of a trickster than a guide sometimes." His expression shifted, a flicker of understanding illuminating the depths of his gaze. The shadows that danced behind him seemed to stir, almost as if they were alive, mirroring the turbulent current of emotions swirling within her. Lila instinctively reached for his hand, feeling warmth radiate from him, grounding her momentarily in the chaos of their unforeseen bond. Yet, that night, as they parted, the river called to her deeper than ever. She walked the familiar path, the echo of Kale's laughter still lingering in her ears, but she could not shake the sense of being drawn towards something she could neither see nor comprehend. The water glimmered under the moonlight, revealing swirling patterns that felt almost sentient, strange, and beautiful. Lila knelt at its edge, and as the cool liquid enveloped her fingers, she could feel the pulse of magic beneath the surface, a heartbeat that seemed to resonate with her own. In that moment of connection, she understood that her destiny was entwined with the river's spirit, yet she also sensed a shift as Keel's laughter faded into silence. A bittersweet realization dawned on her. Each visit to the river not only fortified her bond with Kale, but also forged an invisible chain, binding her to an uncharted fate that hung heavy in the air like a storm cloud. The currents of love and the unknown swirled around her, and she was left to wonder, could love truly conquer all, or would it leave her adrift in a tide beyond her control? The price of love. The dreams had become relentless, a nightly torment that swept over Lila like the tide, drowning her in shadows. Each time she closed her eyes, the river's depths unfurled before her, vast and ominous. Flickering shadows danced just out of sight, whispering secrets with every ripple. Lila could almost hear their voices, entwined with the soft lapping of water against the riverbank. "Come, Lila," they called, seductive and haunting, pulling at the edges of her soul. The weight of her bargain with the river spirit pressed on her like a stone in her chest, suffocating her joy and dimming the light of her love for Kale. As the days passed, Lila's heart wavered between elation and desperation. There were moments of laughter shared beneath the old oak tree, where the sun filtered between the leaves and painted them in dappled light. Kale's laughter rang like music in her ears, a sweet balm against the ache burgeoning within her. But as daylight faded into dusk, the shadows crept back into her mind, an ever-present reminder of the price she owed. She worried that her growing love for Kale would only serve to tighten the noose woven by her reckless wish. Determined to seek understanding, Lila sought out the village elders, their faces etched with deep lines of wisdom and fraught with the weight of years gone by. They gathered in a circle beneath the ancient storytelling tree, its gnarled branches reaching out as if to hold the stories within their embrace. In hushed tones, they spoke of sacrifices made for love, tales tinged with both beauty and sorrow. Lila listened intently, her heart racing with the gravity of their words. The elders spoke of lovers lost to the spirits of the river, souls claimed in exchange for promises made in desperation. "Every wish has a shadow, child," Elder Mira said, her voice like brittle leaves crunching beneath a heel, "and the river always remembers." Lila's hands trembled as she thought of Kale, the warmth of his presence contrasting with the cold dread creeping into her bones. What would the price be? She had wished for him, for the magical connection that bloomed beneath the river's watchful gaze. But could love endure under the weight of such demands? A flicker of doubt ignited within her, a sense of foreboding that she couldn't extinguish despite her best efforts. That night, the river's murmurs grew louder, more insistent. The shadows swirled and ebbed, filling the corners of her consciousness with their dark allure. Lila found herself standing at the water's edge, the moon illuminating the surface into a glowing tapestry, each wave a reminder of the choice she had made. It beckoned her, the silver-white light shimmering in a hypnotic dance. She could almost perceive the river spirit lurking within the depths, its eyes glinting with a mixture of hunger and expectation. As the water lapped at her feet, Lila realized that with every passing day, the river was swelling not just in volume, but in influence over her life. She could feel Kale's own dreams intertwining with hers, their fates becoming something more than mere coincidence. The fear began to blossom, an insidious vine entwining her thoughts. Was Kale's love for her now at stake? Each desire uttered into the current now felt like an echo of a chain growing tighter, entrapping them both. In that moment of clarity, Lila understood that her heart was not the only one at risk of drowning. Kale's spirit was tethered to her own. How could she bear to pull him into this darkness? Torn between the love that lifted her higher and the dread that threatened to consume her, Lila stood at the precipice, aware that the choices she made next would ripple through the very fabric of their shared existence. The reckoning by the water. The air around Lila crackled with tension as the spirit, a mesmerizing figure cloaked in shimmering mist, floated before her, its eyes glowing with an ethereal light. The river, her once beloved refuge, now roared with a power she had never quite comprehended. Waves lapped at her feet as if beckoning her toward an answer she feared to discover. Each heartbeat echoed in her ears, marking the seconds ticking away as she fought to uncover her deepest desires amidst the chaos swirling around her. The spirit's voice flowed like the water itself, fluid, enchanting, yet tinged with an ominous edge. You stand at a crossroads, child of the land and moon. The choices you make tonight will define not just your fate, but that of the one you hold dear. As its words wrapped around her, Lila felt the weight of unspoken histories pressing down on her, secrets of the river she had once swum in innocence. Visions flashed in her mind, scenes of laughter and love, with Kale intermingled with shadows of whispers that hinted at the sacrifices made by those before her. Her thoughts drifted to the pact formed in the heat of yearning, a desire ignited by longing and desperation. In her heart, the shimmering threads of love and obligation twisted like vines, suffocating yet beautiful. Kale's face appeared in her mind, that fierce look of determination in his eyes, juxtaposed with the gentleness he showed her during quiet moments on the riverbank. What would he think if he knew she was here, teetering on the brink of giving him up? Tears streamed down her cheeks, blurring her vision, mingling with the waters that surged around her. "I cannot bear to choose between us," she cried out against the spirit's eerie serenade. The wind howled in sympathy, whipping her hair into a wild frenzy, as if the very elements understood the turmoil in her soul. Just then, Kale emerged from the shadows, drawn to her like a moth to flame. His presence filled the space with warmth, bolstering Lila's courage as he stepped toward her, hand outstretched. The connection between them ignited, a spark of familiarity and love that thrummed beneath the surface, fierce and undeniable. In that moment, the spirit's reflection flickered in the water, a potent reminder that their love could either be their sanctuary or their undoing. "Lila," Kale breathed, his voice steady despite the tempest brewing above them. "Whatever the spirit demands, we will face it together. You are not alone." His vow resonated through her, a lifeline in the shuddering uncertainty that gripped her heart. The bond they shared felt like a warm embrace, dispelling the shadows of doubt that threatened to engulf her. The spirit watched in silence, its gaze piercing yet contemplative. The air thickened with anticipation as it motioned with a delicate hand, revealing glimpses of the past. Lovers torn apart, sacrifices made in pursuit of whisperings from the depths of the river, and threads of strength found in unity. In those fleeting moments, Lila understood that to honor her love for Kale was to acknowledge the ancient magic that bound their fates. As the storm lashed the river, thunder rumbling in the distance, Lila grasped Kale's hand tightly and turned toward the spirit, resolute in her choice. "We choose love, freely given," she declared, her voice steady against the howling winds. The spirit's expression shifted, uncertainty flickering across its otherworldly features. The river rumbled in response, the energy within it swelling, eager to see the reckoning unfold. Thus, a battle between ancient magic and unconditional love was poised on the verge of eruption, the echoes of destinies entwined, carrying the weight of generations before them, as the moment poised itself for its ultimate release.